What's up, PJF Nation? The Lott IMPACT Trophy watch list just dropped, and today we'll give you our 6 Lott Trophy candidates that we're circling early. Who could win college football's top defensive award? I'm Brad Fowler. He's Alex Higdon. Alex, I'm excited to talk about some of the players on this list, man.
Yeah, it's a good list. I like the list they put together.
Yeah, there's some really, really good players here. Look, this list just dropped, like I mentioned, 42 of the best defenders in college football. Big Ten is dominating this list with 16 players, followed by 13 from the SEC. Not a big surprise there. Obviously, the Big Two, as people are calling these conferences now. But look, this was really cool, Alex, that they emailed us this watch list just a couple days ago. Going into next college football season, of course, they named the award after NFL Hall of Famer Ronnie Lott. Just an unbelievable chance for us to dive into this and talk about some of these players. This award goes to college football's best defensive player who makes the biggest impact both on and off the field. So, Alex, I'm going to start with you, man. Alex, which guy are you circling first?
So, being that the award is named after Ronnie Lott, I kind of focused in and lined in on DBs. So you can excuse or take that as excuse or whatever. But the first player I'm going to go with is Ellis Robertson the fourth. This guy is going to come back in. He'll be a junior, but he's going to be a second-year starter because he redshirted his freshman year. 6 feet, I believe, led the SEC in interceptions last year. As a full-time first full-time starter last year, had four interceptions. So looking at what he did last year, now let's remember Georgia wasn't that great of a defense. They didn't have the guys. They're still growing, and they're growing together. And this is one of the guys that's going to grow together. He had 4 interceptions and 7 passes defended. However, now that he's in his junior, i.e. sophomore season, I expect him to take another step forward. I'm looking for more tackles. I won't say more interceptions because I think he's put enough tape out there that people are going to kind of stay away from him. But I look for more tackles and I look for more passes defended, that he's going to be able to become a shutdown corner and be in line for this award.
Yeah, man, this guy was a big-time recruit. We talked about him on a recent episode when we did our top 10 mock draft, a way too early mock draft for next year. And I had him on there in the top 10 because I think he's that kind of player, Alex. I'm with you. This guy was a consensus freshman All-American, SEC second team honors. He's a big-time playmaker, 5-star recruit coming out of high school, and he's starting to look like it for the Georgia Bulldogs. I think this guy has all the talent in the world to be one of the best players in college football next year. Can't wait to see what he does next season because, look, you talked about this award. You talked about Ronnie Lott and the DBs, and I love your focus on the DBs, man. But look at some of the guys who have won this award in the past, Alex. Before I get into some of the guys that I'm looking at, look at the names on this list. Caleb Downs was last year's winner. Go back a couple years, Travis Hunter, but you've got guys like Will Anderson Jr., Aiden Hutchinson, Derek Brown out of Auburn, Jabril Peppers, Luke Kuechly, J.J. Watt. I mean, these are some big time players, man. So this is a prestigious award, man, and I can't wait to watch these guys and kind of follow this as the season unfolds. And look, I'm going to start with a guy that's in my own backyard and a guy that I get to watch up close and personal. Seen this guy play live multiple times, of course. Matayo Uiagalelei for the Oregon Ducks. This guy feels like the perfect modern Lott Trophy candidate because he impacts the game in so many different ways. He was all Big Ten honorable mention in 2025, a guy that's continued to just get better and better every year at Oregon, helped lead Oregon to the CFP semifinal last year. People forget he was already a first-team all Big Ten player as a sophomore, led the Ducks with 10.5 sacks. This guy can set the edge. Tough run defender, complete football player, not just a pass rusher, man. What stands out to me is this is a guy who has alignment versatility, and I think NFL scouts are going to love that about him. He can move up and down the line, high-level play recognition, and once again, the year-over-year growth that we have seen from this kid at Oregon has been impressive. He just gets better and better. A lot of people thought he was going to go to the draft this last season, probably would have been a first-round pick in this last draft. Decided to come back for one more year at Oregon, and I can't wait to see what kind of player he ends up being in this last year. The type of defender that you constantly have to account for. So, yeah, Matayo Uiagalelei is a guy that I'm circling big time, Alex.
Let me ask you a question. how good is Oregon's overall defense? How good is their overall defense?
Man, so I'll tell you what, their defense is getting a lot of hype this offseason, and I think rightfully so, because they had so many guys returning from a defense that was already top 10 in the nation last year. If you remember that Texas Tech college football playoff game, they pitched a shutout against Texas Tech, which was one of the best offenses in the country. And I think that opened a lot of people's eyes to realize, like, wait a second, Oregon's got some guys. They've got guys at all three levels that are going to play on Sundays. And the thing that I'm really circling, and I started here with Matayo, but this defensive line might be the best in college football. And I'll take it another step further, Alex. This defensive line, because all these guys came back. There was a lot of these guys could have went in the draft last year and would have been first, second round picks. These guys all decided to come back here. And I think it surprised a lot of people. The power of NIL has really changed the narrative of college football, as we know. So I think the sky's the limit for them. This front four is getting the kind of hype that, you remember that Clemson front four?
Yeah.
That had all four guys going to the NFL?
Mm-hmm. Christian Wilkins. Yep.
This front four has four guys that I think could probably all, I shouldn't even say probably, I'm guessing all will be in the NFL and could all be first and second round type picks. So they have a chance to be special, and he's one of the anchors up front for them and has been for the last couple of years since he was a 5-star coming out of high school. He's lived up to the hype, man. He's developed into one heck of a player for the Oregon Ducks. Alex, where are you going next on this list, man? I can't wait to hear who you got next.
Well, I'm gonna stay. I have one that's different, but I'm gonna stay with the DB angle. Whether they go or not, these are players that I like. So the one thing I'm gonna say is Curt Cignetti, a coach that I wasn't particularly aware of. I knew the name, but I did not do a full deep dive into who he was and where he came from. But after what I saw from him and what he did with Indiana and how focused he had this team and how just layer by layer from the quarterback as the leader on down, he has had this team locked in and lights on for the national championship last year. Now, they may not win the national championship this year. However, they also won't be pulling up the rear in the Big Ten this year either. And I'm saying that to say that a player like Jamari Sharp, a 4-year player, 3-year starter, he redshirted his freshman, so this will be his super senior year, but he's just simply gotten better every single year. 22-13 the next year, however, he was hurt. They only played 9 games, but then 50 this past season with 6 tackles for loss and only one interception. But I think that's just a combination of how the entire defense fit together. Now, Indiana did not lose a lot of guys to the pros in terms of from this defense. So, however, they brought in a few transfers to fill in some of the spots that they did lose. So I think they're coming back together, and I don't think they're going to be too far off. Again, I don't think they'll win a national championship, but they'll win enough so that Jamari Sharp can stand up tall and be up for this award.
Yeah, absolutely, man, because you're talking about a guy in Cignetti that has quickly thrown his name into the hat of one of the best college football coaches in the country. I mean, hands down. With what he did at Indiana these last 2 years, taking over that program, one of the worst programs in the Power Four, and within 2 years, in year 1, they make the playoff, and then in year 2, he wins the national title on an unbelievable undefeated run with the Heisman quarterback. I mean, you just can't say enough about what this guy's done with this program, and you're right, Jamari Sharp is a guy to watch for sure. That interception in the national championship game that sealed it for the Hoosiers. Everybody remembers when Carson Beck threw it for grabs. He was the guy that came down with it. He was big in the playoff run. This guy, look, everybody for Indiana played big. Let's be real. I mean, they were just lights out. But this guy was a big part of it, man. That defense and coming back for his senior year, I think is going to be huge for the Hoosiers. And you're right, man. This program is not going anywhere. You know, people think that this was a fluke or a flash in the pan. I'm telling you guys, Indiana, as long as Cignetti is there, this program is going nowhere. As long as he has guys like this, they're going to be a tough out no matter who's playing them. So, yeah, man, I love that pick for sure. Look, my next guy that I'm going to circle, I'm going to stick with the secondary here in honor of Mr. Ronnie Lott, like you mentioned. And I've got a secondary guy that I really like. How about Peyton Bowen for Oklahoma? Might be one of the most complete defensive backs in all of college football right now. Second team All-SEC honors. 47 tackles, 2 interceptions last year, 7 pass breakups. This guy even blocked a field goal on special teams. Elite ball skills, closing speed that when you watch him, it just jumps off the screen. I mean, this guy can erase passing windows, but I love how physical he is in run support, Alex. A complete player, not just a guy who covers wide receivers, but a guy who can knock guys around in the run game. And when you factor in that he made 2024 SEC Fall Academic Honor Roll as well, this guy is not only a complete player, he's just smart. An all-around dude. Yeah, smart kid, all-around guy. And when we talk about this award, he's, Ronnie Lott in this committee is looking for guys who make an impact on and off the field. This guy absolutely does it for me. He really starts to look like the kind of complete player that this award is built around. So Peyton Bowen, man, this is a guy, I remember Peyton Bowen when he was a 5-star recruit, when I was looking at, 24/7 sports, looking at guys coming out. He was a big get for the Oklahoma Sooners, and he has developed into one heck of a player.
Quick shout out to our friends at props.cash, the best player prop research tool in the game. Props.cash lets you scan thousands of props across sports books to quickly spot the highest value opportunities. You get real-time injury and lineup intel, advanced filters to find exactly what you're looking for, and even correlated player props so you can see what tends to hit when a player goes over their line. They cover NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, college football, college basketball, and the WNBA. It's legit next level prep. If you're serious about betting smarter, go to props.cash and use code PGF25 for 25% off your first month. That's code PGF25 for 25% off your first month at props.cash. The official ticketing app of Pint Glass Football is now SeatGeek. I can't recommend them enough, guys. I've been using SeatGeek for years. You want to go to a game this season? SeatGeek is here to take the confusion out of buying tickets, making sure you get the best seats at the best prices. With SeatGeek, you'll never have to worry about overpaying for tickets again. How? They put a 0 to 10 score on each ticket, so you know you're getting a good deal. But here's the real game changer. You can get $20 off your first ticket purchase with the code PGFPOD. That's right, $20 off with code PGFPOD. This season, make every game day epic with SeatGeek. Download the SeatGeek app and remember to enter the code PGFPOD to grab your $20 discount.
All right, Alex, who you got next on your list of guys to circle?
So last but not least, and I did say I had 2 DBs going before. Now I have a defensive lineman, an edge rusher. And this guy, his name is John Henry Daly. He started at BYU, transferred to Utah, and is now at Michigan. He's consistently rising. He's rising in the schools. We know that it's a transfer in NIL, and so he's now moved on from BYU and Utah and now all the way over on to Michigan. Now, we know Michigan this year, as they are a young team, but they're a big-time school. They're growing. They're spending their NIL money. They're bringing in transfers, and John Henry Daly is definitely one of them. A guy last year who had 48 total tackles, 17 and a half total tackles for loss, and 11 and a half sacks, going now into his second year starting, but into his senior year. And he's going to be, if not the leader or one of the leaders on this defense. He's pulling back. He had an injury. I believe he had an injury in 2024. He showed up in 2025 with 11 and a half sacks. Now he's going to be able to go full blast at Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And look, a guy like this follows his coach. Of course, Kyle Whittingham takes over at Michigan. We know that he's going to bring some guys with him. He brings this guy with him to Michigan for his senior year. A second-team All-American, like you mentioned last year. I mean, this guy didn't just put up big numbers. This guy was an edge setter, a tough, physical, hard-nosed football player, exactly the kind of player you would expect at Utah with a guy like Kyle Whittingham, and exactly the kind of players that you expect to see at Michigan. This is kind of why I loved the Kyle Whittingham hire so much for Michigan, because it's such a perfect culture fit. He is the perfect coach for this type of program and for what they want to be. And this is the perfect player for that program. And John Henry Daly, man, he is a guy to watch going into his senior year. I think he's going to have a big time year. And look, once again, I want to highlight the guy, not just the player, runs a nonprofit with his brother for opportunities for special needs kids. So you want to talk about a standout dude. This is one of those guys, man. So yeah, I love that pick, Alex. I've got one more guy here. We're going to round it out. And I'm going to stay in the Big Ten because like I said in the intro, man, there's a lot of guys from the Big Ten on this list here. No disrespect to any of these other schools or programs, but man, that a lot of guys to pick from. Kenyatta Jackson out of Ohio State is a guy to watch. This guy has all the traits that you look for in a dominant edge defender. Elite length, explosive burst, relentless motor, which, Alex, I know you love that, man, when you're watching these guys. Last season, Ohio State, he had 11 and a half tackles for a loss, 28 total tackles. This guy was one of the key players on an elite defense that put a bunch of guys into the pros. He's coming back. He'll probably be one of the next ones to go pro after next season. I am really intrigued by this guy's upside because as good as he was, I think now he's going to be kind of fit into that, almost captain-like role. I'm not saying he'll be a team captain, but he's going to be one of the leaders now going into next season for this team. And I just can't wait to see what kind of jump he makes nationally this season to become one of the most disruptive pass rushers in college football. I think he will be. And I think this is a guy to absolutely circle for this award because I expect a big season from Kenyatta Jackson.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, long, 6'6", 265 pounds. So long, lengthening. Ended up being one of the most reliable sources for in their rotation because he only had 6.5 sacks, but you saw the limit. But that's because they were rotating a lot of guys. They had when you bring in all these guys, you have a rotation to keep everybody fresh, and then you go with what you go with. However, but ended up being one of the most reliable rotational pieces during Ohio State's national championship run 2 years ago, and then coming back and playing the same rotation again. He's now laid down his anchor to be a big-time piece in this Ohio State defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Caden McDonald, another guy up front for Ohio State that's moved on to the NFL. So, yeah, he's going to be one of the guys that they're going to lean on up front for sure. I think he's going to live up to it and be a guy to watch for this award. All right, guys, that is going to do it for today's episode. Do us a favor, guys. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe or follow button so you don't miss any future episodes. Once again, I'm Brad Fowler. He's Alex Higdon. This is Pint Glass Football, and we'll catch you next time.